Well, hello there and welcome. My name is Kylie Patchett and I'm your host, and welcome to the Wild and Finally Fucking Free podcast. This show is all about sharing the real and raw stories from women who have undergone midlife metamorphosis, taken a leap of faith, or broken the ties that bind them in patterns of staying stuck, small, and like their needs don't matter. You see, I believe that the years leading up to and during menopause are a rite of passage, a deep invitation after so many years of giving our time, attention, and energy to others to carve out the same time, energy, and attention in ourselves, in our health, our love, our connection, our vitality, our purpose, our real needs and deep desires. You know, those ones lying dormant underneath all the duty, responsibility, pushing, striving, and achieving of our 20s and 30s? You see, at this stage in our lives, we find ourselves shifting identity potentially, no longer caring as much what other people think, and left wondering why on earth we have not given ourselves permission to do life in the way we truly want to. In this show, I speak to the women brave enough to truth talk their own midlife shedding skin stories, and the healers and helpers who help them transition through these crossroads of change. This is the midlife magic you didn't even know you needed, and I am so freaking glad you found us. Let's dive in. I always start these with a little boogie. I know no one can see me boogieing, but hello to the beautiful Jenn Hoover. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me.
As usual, we started chatting and I was like, we really need to just press record because there's lots of things that we're talking about that need to be part of this conversation. Can you please introduce your beautiful self to our listeners?
Sure. So my name is Jenn Huber, and I'm a Canadian naturopathic doctor and registered dietitian, but living in the Netherlands and working as a, kind of midlife nutritionist, strategist, coach, helping women to manage menopause without all the food rules and dieting that comes with it.
Can we get an amen? Holy moly. We were just talking, we will get to this later on, but talking about celebrity influences in this realm, but let's not go there yet. I'll calm myself down. So something that I loved when I actually discovered you through, I think it was Neve Daly, who's Yoga for Menopause, and she tagged you in something, and I was like, oh, what? There is actually a person who specializes in menopause nutrition that has the intuitive eating and the health at every size kind of lens. I've spoken about on this podcast before my own history of like binge eating disorder and recovery, which is quite fresh for me, only a couple of years old. So it was a breath of fresh air to find someone who was specialized and also qualified to be able to give advice in this area, because I just think, I don't know. I mean, I'm on social media, obviously. We all are if we have online businesses, but I just think some of this can be so poorly reported with no evidence base and no everyone should take this supplement that will fix everything like that. We're not. What would you like to say about that? Let's just start there.
The online world is a minefield,
isn't it?
I think everybody knows that intellectually.
Yeah.
But the difficult part is navigating that when you rely on it as a source of information.
Yeah.
As we all do to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
We all Google.
Mm-hmm.
We all
absolutely
search for the things that we want more information on.
Yes.
But the online world can present us with very pretty, credible looking people, sources of information, and as a result, people can, I think, without their consent, be duped, I guess is the best word, into believing that the information that they've gotten is real.
Yes.
And so when it doesn't work for them, or when it doesn't feel right, they don't see the information as being the problem. They see themselves as being the problem.
I'm so glad.
And that is, in my, kind of personal and professional opinion, the real danger of getting any kind of health information from influencers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess too, I reckon I'm probably only about 2 years into this perimenopause transition thing. And for me, a significant part has been like self-doubt and not being like not feeling like I can trust my own gut type of thing. And that makes it even more, I'm going to use the word dangerous very consciously, for us to go seeking information from people that aren't qualified to give that information, or they're giving only a little tiny bit of the information and not the whole picture. So yes, thank you. Thank you for saying that, because I think that unfortunately, I'm loving that we're having these conversations about menopause. What I'm not loving is that it also means that there's lots of people trying to sell lots of stuff and it's being monetized. So that's kind of inviting
the problem with, information coming from influencers or people who maybe don't have comprehensive training is that most of the time the information is actually very well intentioned.
Yeah.
And, somebody has a personal experience that they have sought treatment for, solutions for.
Yes.
It works like gangbusters for them. They become very passionate about being an advocate, being a storyteller, and truly wanting to help others. And all of that is very genuine. And so I never want to discount someone's personal experience as being very powerful, but that alone doesn't qualify someone to apply that same information to someone else.
No, absolutely not.
And when it comes to nutrition, one of the arguments that's so often made is, well, everybody should be an expert in nutrition, and nutrition is so important and it influences every age and stage and aspect of our health. We actually need more information. And that's true. There's a grain of truth in that. Yes, nutrition is very important, but the fallacy of it is believing that it's simple and easy. And so, our relationship with food matters just as much as what we're eating, because we have to make decisions about food every single day, multiple times a day, often for other people.
Yeah,
and
that's
we
true.
Can't control every outside influence on our decisions about food. So we can't always control whether we're home. We can't always control what food we have access to. Yeah. We can't control what other people like.
It's so
yeah. So I just feel really, I feel for the people who have had such a strong experience that they want to become, a leader. That's wonderful. But go through all the training.
Yes.
Exactly. And don't believe that sales training from a company that wants you to promote something is equivalent to professional training and certification.
Oh, Lordy, no. That's what I'm always saying. Please look at where you're getting your information from. What is the person who is sharing it to gain? And anyway, that's a whole other tangent. I'm interested when you say our relationship to food is as important as the food itself, which I think is the key that I really want to pull out here for women in midlife. There's so much information out there. We're also going through physical, emotional, spiritual, every single change. Actually, before I get to that, when you first became interested in studying nutrition, was it because you were trying to figure something out for yourself? You said something before we started recording.
Yeah. So I first started studying nutrition in 1995, coming up on 30 years.
Nice.
And that was a result of my own very disordered relationship with food, that I wanted to become a dietitian so that I could understand and fix myself. I really believed that if I was studying nutrition, that I would figure it all out.
Yeah.
And we now know there have been many surveys done through the various schools of nutrition across the world that's a very common feature of many people who go in to study nutrition.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is why I think so many of us are actually so passionate about making it about more than just food.
Yes. Yes.
So I mean, I've been studying this for 30 years, and I always say that that's why I've seen all the diets come and go at least twice, if not 3 times. But I have enough personal and professional experience under my belt to know that we put too much pressure on food. we put so much pressure. Like I always joke that we expect too much of vegetables. People feel guilty for not eating them. They force themselves to eat things that they don't like because they feel a moral obligation to.
Yep.
I'd love to get a t-shirt one day that says you don't have a moral obligation to eat your broccoli. You're not a bad person if you don't like something that has been labeled good for you. And this is really the heart of our relationship with food, is that we are not what we eat.
Oh,
and
I feel like we need to repeat that. Please repeat that.
Yeah, we are not what we eat. And when anybody comes through, lives in this diet, wellness, culture world, their identity becomes wrapped up in their dietary tribe.
Oh,
so
goodness.
Are you keto? Are you low carb? Are you vegan? Are you this? Are you that? And so when your identity as a person is wrapped up in what you eat, you will have a very difficult time having a flexible and forgiving relationship with food that allows you to live your life. Because that's the whole point, is living our lives. It's very difficult to do that if you're feeling guilty about what you're eating or not eating.
What did you say? Flexible and what was the second?
Forgiving relationship with food.
Forgiving. Oh, you're speaking my language. I just had a really funny conversation with a friend who is in one of those groups at the moment. And she's drunk the Kool-Aid, as I have before. My last soiree into any sort of dieting was such a restrictive, almost cult-like sort of feel, and did a lot of damage psychologically, but mostly physically. But she's so wrapped up in the identity of that, like every single thing has to be about this. It's like a way of life, which is what they're kind of selling it as. But I'm like, but do you feel good? Like, do you enjoy what you're eating? Oh, it's not about that. It's about getting the right macronutrients in and blah, blah, blah. And I can appreciate, similar to me, she's had an up and down yo-yo dieting, one extreme to the other kind of thing. And I think she's on the cusp of probably where I was about 2.5 years ago, where I really had to face how crazy making all of these attempts were. I'm like, I've been doing this since I was about 13 years old. I'm now 48. How many more years am I going to dedicate the time, the energy, the no, thank you, I can't have that, all of that sort of identity wrapped up in that. I'm like, I don't have the emotional bandwidth to do it anymore. That's one thing. But also I just realized it was at so much of a cost. And when you say flexible and forgiving, I'm like, that's it in a nutshell. That's the reverse of any prescribed diet of any description, isn't it? And
it is.
Sorry.
Yeah. And what I was just going to say, we mentioned about, the lifestyle that they're selling, that is the language that has been used, is that it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. And the promise of that is that will make it easier. And what they're really saying is that, it means that you have to weave every aspect of your life into meeting those food rules.
Yes.
And the promise of that does make it sound like, oh, of course, that will be easier. But it's not easy to do something that doesn't feel good. Right.
And it's also, sorry, you go.
Restriction will never feel good. It doesn't matter what the rules are. Continued restriction will never feel good. And we are programmed to avoid pain and seek pleasure. So if something isn't feeling good, our brain is going to rally hard against it.
Yep. Which is exactly what my last experience was. And in the end, I was just like, beginning of 2022, this is crazy making. I have been on a super strict plan for 3 years, not taken any step wrong. I'm really good at following a plan, and then I'm not, which is obviously, this is, your brain is going, feed me, for God's sake. I'm way too hungry, you're way malnourished, you're not getting, it's not fun, it's not enjoyable. And of course, binge ate my way all the way back to, so the beginning of 2022, I was just like, my commitment to myself is no food rules. And where I was actually wanting to go with you then, when people, because at that stage, I did work with an eating disorder recovery, like hypnotherapist type of person. She's intuitive eating, but going from having every single part of your identity wrapped up in this lifestyle, which, as you quite rightly say, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. And also, as you're saying that, that also means that if you can't do it and it's supposed to be easy, then you again have failed, which is exactly what you're talking about with the, take your information from an influencer and then when it doesn't work, you've failed. It's not the plan, it's not the whatever. But yeah, when you wrap everything, every piece of your identity up in that, and then someone says to you, well, what I thought intuitive eating was, and I'd love you to explain what it really is, was, but I need to know how to eat right and how to eat wrong so I can get it right. And then there was the whole conversation about, you're just going to learn to trust that your body's cues and everything. And I'm like, no, I don't have any cues. I don't trust my body. I cannot do that. If I do that, I'm going to end up being 200 kilos. So please, can you, with your vast amount of experience, explain to people that don't understand what intuitive eating is and what it allows people to access that they're never going to get with something that is like I don't like using the word tribe because I don't think that's the correct language either, but this, I'm going to say cult of any diet.
Yeah, that's probably a better word for it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah.
So intuitive eating is a framework. It is based on 10 principles. There's quite a robust amount of evidence examining the application of it to health, physical and mental and emotional. Originally created by two dietitians, Evelyn Tribole and Elise Reich. They've trained thousands of practitioners, over the last 25 years. But essentially, it's an undieting framework. So undieting isn't language that they use, but it's how I describe the process of going from a chronic professional dieter to someone who is learning to trust and listen to their body.
I'm just loving the language that you use, a chronic professional dieter.
Yeah.
That is so true. That was
absolutely.
That's who I was.
Absolutely. Because it felt like a job at the time, right? It was what you were doing full time.
Yeah.
Life was on the side. You were a professional dieter.
100%.
So when the first principle of intuitive eating is to reject the diet mentality, and depending on which stage people that I work with kind of come to me in, that can be all the conversation, half the conversation, maybe just a little bit. But essentially, it is really taking a close look at what is the mindset of a dieter and how can we learn to see, and I'll describe that in a second too, like how can we learn to see why diets that pursue intentional weight loss will never work. So intuitive eating isn't anti-weight loss. I'm always clear with that. So it's not saying that weight loss is the outcome or weight gain, just weight in general. Weight is not the outcome that we attach it to, but it is the process of trying to achieve and maintain restriction, a caloric deficit. That is the problem. That is the pursuit of intentional weight loss. Because we have all of these safety systems in place that are designed to help us survive.
Yes.
Right. So if we are maintaining a caloric deficit indefinitely, the part of our brain that regulates our survival doesn't know that that's a choice we're making. It just knows that it's not getting enough.
And it sounds the alarm.
And as a result, we become more interested in food, and that's appetite. And differentiating between appetite and physical hunger is important because sometimes people will say, well, no, this diet is working because I don't feel physical hunger. I still have cravings, but I'm not feeling physically hungry. And there may be ways that you are no longer listening, hearing, or maybe your body actually isn't sounding those physical cues as often.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have an increased interest in food, then that is your body's way of saying, I have not gotten enough. I want you to be interested in food because I need more.
And this, I'm just thinking, I'm hearing your words, I'm applying them to what I was like in that 3 years. And I'm like, I also would have said to you and completely believed every single bit of this sentence that I'm not hungry. So therefore, I'm not doing any damage. This is just a lifestyle. This was actually, I don't even want to honor it with describing the program. It just doesn't matter. But I would have said I'm not that interested in food, but I spent an enormous amount of time planning, prepping, thinking about getting to eat next, thinking about food as soon as I woke up, waking up hungry overnight. That was something that was definitely happening. But I still would have said, and actually the person who founded that program used to say, even if you get hunger cues, you tell yourself a little story. I'm not hungry. No bite will, pass my lips, these types of things. And I'm like, oh my goodness. We're literally saying to people, ignore your body's very smart cues.
Yep. And since you're in Australia, I can probably hazard a guess at what that program is, because I've worked to rehabilitate many Australians from this program.
Oh, it's not the one you think. This is an American.
Okay.
This is an American, and there's 4 rules, and it's based on
okay. I know that one too.
Yeah.
So the thing about food is that because eating and getting enough is part of survival, we really need to feel safe. And when I talk to people about, what is your goal with your relationship with food? And, in those early days, they'll often say, well, my goal is to know exactly what I should and shouldn't be eating. I want to eat to nourish my body, and I want to be healthy, and I want it to do da, 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 da. And then I'll say, okay, but how do you want to feel? Well, I want to feel healthy. Healthy is not a feeling. How do you want to feel? And when we get down to it, they'll say, well, I just want to feel safe. I want to feel happy. And we start to see how you can never feel safe and happy and content and at ease and at peace if you are trying to follow a set of rules about what to eat.
I want to turn every single sentence you say into the quote for this episode. I'm like, can you slow down on the perfect? No, please don't. That makes so much sense to me, because right at the end, I actually started to get quite, I have never been someone who suffers from anxiety, but I started to get that type of really heightened, scattered, cyclical thinking type of stuff. And when you say safe, that is actually the opposite of feeling safe. Like, it's that real on edge. I'm not grounded. I don't feel like I'm okay. And it was really discombobulating at the time. Looking back, it may also have been the start of perimenopause as well. But it's the opposite of feeling safe. Yep. Total opposite. So for someone, because as you're saying, what do you want? I would have said exactly the same thing. I just want to know exactly what I need to eat and not eat so that I can get it right. But also, if you'd questioned me under, it would have all come back to, I need to be a certain weight to be okay. Yeah. So someone else's definition or my definition for myself always came back to the very first time I did Weight Watchers before I got married. I look back and I go, I wasn't even overweight. I don't know what the hell, but anyway. And they use the stupid BMI for their weight range. They probably still do, which, as we all know, is not meant to be an individual measure, blah, blah, blah. And so that figure has always been.
And that is a big part of it. And again, it comes down to safety. The reason why we associate a number or a size with what we think we want is because that number represents, a time when we felt accepted.
Yeah.
A time. And so again, acceptance is survival, which is safety.
Mhm.
And so understanding that how we feel in our bodies can't be defined by a number. And weight isn't a behavior. So it's not something we can choose. It's not like saying, I'm going to choose what I'm going to wear today. We can't choose that. So if we actually want to feel peaceful and safe and content and be able to choose foods that do nourish our health, that do help us to live, our best life in the bodies that we have, we can't attach an outcome to that is based on weight.
Hey gorgeous, we interrupt this gold for a delicious invitation. If your whole body has been whispering more lately, more voice, more truth, more satisfaction, more clients of the soulmate variety, more cash, more you, then this invitation is for you. Potent, my sister mind is officially open. This is my high touch, holy fuck, I'm ready sister mind for rebels in good girl clothing who are done outsourcing their power and diluting their magic to fit into someone else's business formula. If you have been craving a space where your strategy, your voice, and your energy all get to be offered, honored, refined, and amplified, this is it. Inside of Potent, you will get my eyes on your business every single week, copy mentoring, and that is for brand copy and content storytelling that turns your truth into client catnip, energetic recalibration that helps you unhook old learned limitation patterns, keeping you quiet, not being seen, not being heard, real-time, high-touch, one-on-one coaching that actually sees the bigness of your vision, and the kind of sisterhood that does not flinch when you show up in your full, messy, brilliant, phoenix rising from the ashes glory. This isn't surface level support. It's deep, potent, paradigm shifting work that changes who you are as a woman in business and a woman in life. We start in August. Early open access is open right now. For the month of June 2025, inside of this early access open doors period, you will receive juicy bonuses, extended payment plans, and access immediately to my entire library of storytelling gold. You'll find all the juicy details at kyliepatchett.com/potent. And we fill spaces, and there's only 10 of them, and more than likely only 5 by the time you listen to this, because by that time I will have offered them to the existing cohort, the beautiful original OG circle. We do actually take applications on a first come, first served basis. So come and apply, and let's get back to the magic of the episode. Let that sink in, ladies. I know there's so many people, the 2 episodes we've done on diet culture, but also eating disorder recovery, there has been so many people that have DM'd me saying, thank you for being honest about your own journey. And I'm like, I am by no means a pioneer. I'm sure your practice is bursting at the seams with women with the same, the same conversations. I'm interested, when you were first studying nutrition and naturopathy, and you yourself identified that you were looking for the fixing, how did you start to become aware that your own relationship with food was a bit skew, if I'm going to say?
Well, and honestly, for the first, 10 years of my practice, I didn't. I really believed in the food as medicine mantra. It's what I practiced. It's what I taught people. It's what I prescribed. And somewhere around 2015, I was in the early stages of perimenopause, but didn't know because I was only 36 or 37.
Yes.
And was experiencing all the things. I was experiencing the sleep changes, the mood changes, the body changes, and started to feel the sense of urgency that so many people would that still come to me with in those early stages. Oh my God, what is happening? I'm doing all the right things. I'm doing more of the right things. I'm trying harder. I'm doing better. I'm not doing any of the things that I enjoy. I've given up all my favorite things.
No joy.
And yet, yeah, like the number of people who tell me that they get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 days a week, work out, don't have any wine, don't have any pizza, don't have any sugar, are literally just living to eat and work out in this very prescribed way, and yet are still noticing and feeling these body changes is astounding. Mm-hmm. And so I was there too. And like so many others, I did more restriction. I've podcasted on my own podcast about how keto was my last diet. And it was honestly, I have this very distinct memory of standing at our microwave on Friday nights. When we were in Canada, we used to make a homemade pizza every night.
Yeah.
Every Friday, sorry.
Every Friday, yeah.
And I remember I have this distinct memory of making this fathead pizza crust out of coconut flour and melted mozzarella cheese. Mm-hmm. And I remember standing there at the microwave waiting for this cheese to melt. And my daughter, who was probably, I think, 8 or something at the time, saying, "Why don't you eat Daddy's pizza?" And that was the first moment. I actually get emotional when I think about it, of like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Why am I not eating what everyone else
What's going on here?
And I wouldn't have the bun with my burger because, well, I prefer it that way, is what I would tell the kids.
Yes, me too.
Right? Who ever actually prefers a lettuce bun?
Exactly.
Nobody. I love lettuce, but not as a bun.
No, me neither. It's nowhere near as satisfying.
So that was the first kind of conscious awareness that I had that like, I need to think a little bit more about this. And I actually wish I could remember what happened between that point and me completely just giving up diet culture, but I can't. I just know that somewhere along the way in that next year, I was introduced to intuitive eating, and it was kind of, I remember signing up for the training. I think it was in 2016, in January, and saying like, I don't think I'm going to actually be able to believe or do any of this, but I'm going to do the training anyway.
That's exactly how I approached it as a client. I was like, I don't think this is going to work, but nothing else has, so I'll give it a whirl.
And by the end of those sessions, which were with Evelyn Tribbley online, I just thought, oh my goodness, what have I done? Was my first question, because now I can't unsee it. Yeah. And that's the thing that happens, is that once that veil has been lifted, either personally or professionally, and you see how much evidence is out there that diets and restriction don't work, that we can't expect all bodies to look the same. When you see the racist and classist roots behind our fat phobic culture.
I want to come back to that, but yes, continue.
You can't unsee it. And I knew that, I joked that was kind of the beginning of the end for me, but it really was like the beginning of all of this. And so, over the next couple of years, I really kind of immersed. And I think it was in January of 2017 that in Canada, that I closed my practice to weight loss, because I no longer felt like it was ethical to prescribe weight loss.
Oh, and wow.
And that was, obviously as a business person, as somebody who was a dietitian working, as a naturopathic doctor in Canada as well, telling people that I wouldn't help them lose weight was almost like, writing a bankruptcy check, in many ways. But I just had to be true to what I believed. And I really could no longer help people count calories.
No,
because it wasn't helping them be well. And that's what I was able to thankfully convince people, that like you want to be well and healthy and eat normally and just feel like food is just a thing that's there. And you can't get there by
the way you're doing it.
That path
does not lead to that destination.
So then over the next couple of years after that, we ended up moving to Europe kind of temporarily a couple of years ago. And that was just a really great opportunity for me to just be all in and say, like, this is what I want to do. I want to help women undiet their lives. And, midlife is such a great opportunity because my favorite Brene Brown quote, right, which is that, midlife grabs you by the shoulders and,
Yes.
tells you that, it's time to get off your ass, is really, I think, where a lot of people land in my virtual space, in my virtual office, is kind of like, I just know in my knowing is telling me that I can't do this any longer, but I don't know how not to. And so I love, love, love meeting people there.
Oh, I love, love, love hearing this because, well, first of all, I just want to reiterate what you said, which you did not feel it was ethical anymore to prescribe weight loss.
Yeah.
I imagine that would have been very, like you say, it's almost like, whew, am I really going to do this? Like, this is a thing that I've trained, like, well, not exclusively, obviously, but was the majority of your practice exactly that at that stage?
I had a very varied, kind of naturopathic practice in Canada. Yeah. And so it wasn't exclusively, but if I was to audit, let's say, my intake forms, I would probably say that 90% of people would have put in their top 3 reasons for coming to see me weight loss.
Yeah.
It may not have been the first, but it often was, but it was always there. And, so kind of telling people that that wasn't something I was comfortable doing anymore, personally or professionally, often did open some wonderful conversations, kind of like, oh, well, tell me more about that.
Tell me more. Yeah.
And I will never forget the first person who wept in my office saying, you are the first person who has told me that it's okay not to try and lose weight. She wept.
I feel a sense of relief. Like I said before, I used to spend so much of my time and my bandwidth and my planning and my trying to control. That's really what I became quite I couldn't ignore the fact anymore that I'd been doing this for this many decades. And I'd swung from, up here 30 kilos, down here 30 kilos, up here 30 kilos, down here 30 kilos.
Yeah.
And I just had this sense, I was like, if I had never gone on that very first diet, I would still be that weight-ish, roundabout. Because I would have just been exercising the way that my body felt to, and I would be eating what I felt to, because I pretty much ate pretty healthily, and then occasionally would have, the pizza or the red wine or whatever, but it was the dieting that created the crazy making. So I was kind of like, I wasn't crazy in the first place. So that sense of relief for me was, I actually didn't even realize when I had this conversation. Well, first of all, the conversation about intuitive eating, I was like, this is not going to work for me. There's no other people can do this. There's no way I can trust myself around food. That's actually one of the messages of that diet is you are a food addict and you cannot trust yourself around food. So that actually hurts my heart because I know that there's literally thousands of women still in that program, still believing that about themselves, in many, many age groups, like 20s all the way to 80s. And I'm like, far out, man, I do not want to be fighting with my body at 80. So yes, that was my first thing. But then when I actually went through 2022 and I kept my commitment to myself that there would be no trying to control, no dieting, no plan, no whatever. What grew was a sense of relief. It was like, okay. So there's a lot more bandwidth here. And I think you're right. The midlife, like, part of the magic of the midlife is questioning what you do and don't want to take forward.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
Like, do you really want to be still dieting when you're 60, 70, 80? Ugh, couldn't think of anything worse. With the person that you were saying was brought to tears, is that indicative of the amount of years that she'd spent doing that? Like when people come across, when they start working with you, I'm guessing they've tried a lot of different diets, most
Usually.
likely. Yep. And then you introduce this intuitive eating concept. What are some of the perceived barriers that they have at the beginning of this?
The first is that most people still very much believe that weight is a proxy for health.
Yeah.
And so they'll say, oh, yeah, that all sounds great, but I need to lose weight for my health.
Mm.
And so the first barrier is really kind of unpacking, well, what is health?
Mm.
And, there are many facets to health. There are determinants of health that we can't control.
Mm-hmm.
And also, health is not a number. It's not a size. You can be in the quote unquote healthy BMI range and not be healthy.
Well, that was me.
Absolutely. And you can be in a higher BMI range and really not be at any more risk or significantly more risk than someone else, because we cannot boil down health to that number. There's always going to be so many moving parts. So the first barrier is kind of understanding what actually is health and why weight is not a proxy for health. The second barrier is often kind of all the mixed messages. So, people say, well, I just don't even know anymore. I don't know what to eat. I've done so many diets that I start the morning keto and I end low fat. It's like, that there's so many mixed messages.
True.
So being able to really, the reason why I do so much myth busting is because I think that when it comes to changing our beliefs, we have to be presented with competing information, right? We have to be, if you want to truly believe that carbohydrates are safe and fine to eat and are actually associated with better health outcomes across all ages, all health conditions, then you need to be presented with cold, hard facts about that.
Yeah.
And so that's a lot of what I do is I say, hey, you know what? These influencers, which are also sometimes medical doctors and also sometimes dietitians, are saying that, you need to cut carbs in order to be healthy. So here's a study. This is why we know this particular study is, top tier evidence.
Yes.
And look, here are 10 others of this high quality evidence. And so being able to share that information, I think, is helpful, because people sometimes be like, oh, yeah, okay, I see what you mean now. And so it really helps to dilute the misinformation by crowding it out in our heads. So, having the right information is a barrier too, but because we've done so many different diets, it can get so confusing. But probably the last one, and the one that I probably spend the most time on, is this belief that you can actually feel happy in a body that isn't the size you've been chasing.
Yeah.
And so, that is where understanding what body image is, what body neutrality is, and, kind of comes back to what I call the social justice movement around body acceptance, which is understanding that what we see in the media is only about 5% of the body diversity that's out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, especially for our age group, what we were exposed to in those formative years was Barbie.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't know in Canada, but we had this magazine called Dolly in Australia. I'm not sure if that was worldwide, but it was
17 and YM, which was the same thing.
Similar,
right?
Like tiny,
tall,
tiny,
white girls.
thin, tall white girls. And there was often a column like Dear Dolly was about, how do I lose this 5 kilos? And I'm like, we're talking to 13 to 16-year-olds, or maybe 12-year-olds to 16-year-olds, whatever. And I'm just like, holy moly. That was actually one of the very first things that I changed when I started working with an intuitive eating person was I realized that I was swimming in an ocean of very, very limited exposure to bodies, exposure to belief systems about food, exposure. Because, when you get on the bandwagon to say, like you were saying, keto, then you start following the keto accounts, and you've got keto recipes, and you've got keto people, and you've got keto blah, 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 blah. And it just becomes the ocean that you swim in. And what I did was unfollow any account that I felt at all triggered by, unfollowed anything that was to do with any specific diet, found some intuitive eating, but also health at every size specific accounts. So I started following a few trainers that were health at every size. They had that sort of filter of like, movement is for feeling good and the health of your body overall, not to get to a particular size. And that was a huge turning point for me, because I wasn't then continually exposed to this other message, which was to be okay and to be healthy and to be safe. You had to be this particular body, which my body was never going to be anyway. Like, genetically, it's like I have boobs and a bum, and that's just the way I was made. So I think that was a huge thing for me, to just swim in a different ocean. And if you're listening to this and you're kind of going, well, there could be something here, just look at the information and the images, absolutely, particularly that you're exposing yourself to. Because that continual confirmation of I'm not okay because I don't look like that, I'm not okay. And therefore it becomes a problem that you have to fix, exactly like you said. It's like I have to seek this solution. And I really want to reiterate that, this restrictive plan that I was on, their thing was think about the size you were when you were the most happiest, preferably in your teens, and then that's your goal weight, right? Ridiculous for a 40-something-year-old to be the same size that you were when you were. And I got all the way down there. I can say I was the least healthy I've ever been, because I was obsessive. My mental health wasn't good. I didn't feel safe. And I couldn't go out, and I couldn't enjoy the pizza with my family, or I couldn't have I'm not a big drinker anyway, but I couldn't go and enjoy the smoothie rather than the whatever the plan said. It was like no joy, literally no joy. This cannot be the answer. This cannot be the answer. And you can only sustain it for a certain amount of time anyway, because your brain's going, please.
Absolutely.
I'm interested, when you're working with women in midlife, and you started talking about like when you went and experienced early menopause and you had all of these body changes, are there particular things that, and I know that I don't love asking people blanket rules, but is there things that women need to start, like you've talked about undieting, so stopping this concept that there's a right and a wrong way of eating. Is there other things that we need to be more aware of when we're going through this midlife transition in terms of how to nourish ourselves?
Yeah, and that's really the gentle nutrition piece of intuitive eating. So gentle nutrition is essentially food matters, but not in the way that we've been led to believe. And nutrition is the long game. So I never want anyone to feel like anything that I talk about in terms of food is something that we need to do perfectly. We want to have this flexible and forgiving relationship with food. So when it comes to the gentle nutrition application in midlife, some of the things that I often talk about, and especially on social media, are related to phytoestrogen rich foods. So these would include, things like soy and flax, and to a certain extent, beans and lentils. And the reason is kind of twofold. One, if somebody is having a lot of hot flashes, eating these foods more often may help. Doesn't help everyone. Certainly helped me. Was kind of how I really went into this, this aspect of menopause nutrition, was because of my own experience. But also because they're good sources of protein and fiber and often calcium, all things that do matter, right? And we do want to have some way of enjoying these foods more often. So, protein is important, not only just for our muscles, but also for our bones.
Yes.
And including a lot of fiber. I would say fiber is like the most adult thing ever to talk about over 40, but it is also the thing that is going to give you the most bang for your buck when it comes to your health, because you'd be hard pressed to find a health outcome that isn't improved a little or a lot by having more fiber. So, when we talk about a lot of ways of eating like keto, it's often low fiber. You might have a lot of insoluble fiber, but you're not having a lot of soluble fiber. And the soluble fiber is the secret sauce. So, that's kind of where sometimes when people will be like, oh, my cholesterol is really high. Great. Let's have oatmeal. Oh, but oatmeal has carbs.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. So, that's kind of one of the ways that we'll talk about it is, well, why do we want to include this? And how can we do it in a way that is satisfying first? So I teach people to lead with satisfaction and then add in the gentle nutrition so that we're always saying yes to our taste hunger and not no, which is what dieting has taught us.
I love that. So satisfaction first, then gentle. And so taste hunger, if I'm understanding you, is your preference and your enjoyment of food, which is completely stripped away by dieting because it's all about someone else's version of what you should be eating. And then the gentle nutrition is, this is the long-term game. What are the things that can help us through
exactly.
or whatever.
Gentle nutrition is acknowledging that our food does impact health, but it does so without making food the most important because it's not. You can make a great case for public health being far more important than access to broccoli.
Yeah, absolutely.
And accessibility is a whole other conversation around food. But we want to just realize that not all health conditions can be prevented or treated with food, which is diametrically opposed to what diet and wellness culture in particular tells us.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, I see people all the time who are doing all the right things and still get a diagnosis of something that they wanted to prevent with food.
Yes.
Even genetics, we can influence genetics to a certain extent and the expression of genetics with how we're eating or not eating, but that doesn't mean that we're in control of it. So as we move away from this idea that food is something we need to control so that we can control the outcome of our health and see it as something that can have an influence, but the extent of which we don't know and can't control, it becomes a lot easier to have a more flexible kind of boundary, as it were, instead of this hard and fast rule.
Yeah, it's not all or nothing. It's not the black and white. It's this.
Exactly.
Yes, we can help to influence it, but this is not the whole picture of it. And there is no, this is what I most react to on the internet, and I will have that conversation with you as our final question. There's so many ways that people will say, if you eat like this, then you will have the best outcomes. There is just no way that anyone can say that, no matter what your training is, because it is not that simple. And my original training is in genetics. And I'm just like, sometimes, some people have high cholesterol because genetically they're predisposed and they can eat no matter how they want to eat. And yes, they'll influence it exactly how you said, but they're not going to turn that gene off magically. And I think that the more that we are discerning with our sources of information, the better that we will understand those things. And it isn't so black and white. And then that, to me, just opens up that gentleness. To me, I don't know, midlife, I feel like that's the invitation to everything. It's like softening, gentle, soothe, let's just take
our ability to do the things that we don't want to do anymore evaporates. And it is such a blessing.
Yes, it is.
It really, really is. It can be uncomfortable. And I'm not saying that it's easy, but it really helps you to see the way forward.
Yeah. I totally agree. Would you, do you identify yourself as postmenopausal these days?
I do. So I hit my 1-year mark on February 10th.
Exciting. I feel like I want to high five you.
It was a big day because, I joked that it was my third kick at the can. Yeah. I had only had, so my last official period would have been in February of 2022.
Yes.
But I had only had 3 periods in the 18 months before that.
Oh, so you're so close.
I hit a 5-month mark and an 8-month mark. And then finally, kind of went the 12 months. And so, it definitely, but I was telling people about 6 months before, I know this is it, because I really felt a shift physically, mentally, emotionally. And what I love sharing is that so many things got better. My mood improved, my energy levels improved, my brain fog improved, my sleep improved, like all of the things that had really been thorns in my side for the better part of 5 or 6 years just kind of went away. And yeah, now I still have the occasional hot flash. And I think that, because I do still eat soy almost every day, that may be controlled by that. But, for the most part, I really just feel like I've hit this new normal. And
so
it's
good.
awesome.
You are not the first person that has said that to me in that final 12 months that ended up, yes, being the actual, the transition to menopause or, changeover date. There's 2 other people today in interviews that have said to me, I felt a distinct shift. And one of them actually said to me, my physical symptoms have all but gone, even though I'm not at that 12-month. What I'm feeling is the ramping up of the emotionality, but it's like it's ramping up into a crescendo for the final act. And I was like, oh, I want to be there. And then I'm like, no, I don't. I don't want to rush this, because I do think there's so many layers of learning and coming home to ourselves. And I always use the terminology, I'm being forced to be reverent of my resources because they're so much more limited. So much more limited. And last night I did not sleep well. And I was just like, I have got nothing in the tank today. We will be doing the essential things and that's it. But that feels actually really freeing because there's no decision in it. It's just I don't have anything more. Whereas, the recovering perfectionist, achievement-oriented, 20s and 30s part of me would be like, no, just push through. It doesn't matter. Have it for the coffee. Like, ignore your body's signals. Now I'm like, well, I can't. I need to literally just lie on my yoga mat for an hour before my next interview, which is what I've been doing. But it's such a gift. And I'm so pleased to have these conversations with people that ask, that shift does feel, and also honoring that for some people, all of that continues for quite some time and may
Absolutely.
always.
And there are so many different paths. Some people, I would say that my personal experience and the experience of the women that I work with is that perimenopausal is more symptomatic than postmenopausal.
Yes.
Not always true, but I would say on the whole. And that for most people, postmenopause has a more predictable set of symptoms if they're sticking around, which would be more in line with, hot flashes and night sweats or the vaginal dryness or the changes that we associate with the kind of really low state of estrogen that defines postmenopause. Most of the changes in the experience, meaning, energy, mood, sleep, all of those things tend to fluctuate more in perimenopause.
Yeah. Oh, so good. I don't think I'm even going to worry about that final question because I feel like it muddies the beauty of this conversation. So let's not go there. What would you say to someone who is in midlife, who's still stuck in my body needs to be a particular size or a particular shape and I can't be healthy if it's not? Obviously we need to say where to find you because your information is so good at challenging. I'm like, yes. Someone who's actually qualified is challenging the status quo, which I absolutely love. What would you say to them? What advice or what pearl of wisdom would you like to leave people that are listening to this in a similar position to what you were and what I was, where it's just like, this is not working. Something's got to give. Where do they go next?
Press pause. So many people have this urgency that keeps them running on this hamster wheel, jumping from wheel to wheel without ever pressing pause and questioning, why isn't this working? Why does this feel so hard?
Yeah.
And most of us are, smart, intelligent, intuitive, compassionate women. People who, in every other aspect of our lives have found confidence and, wisdom and really kick ass at anything we put our mind to. So just press pause and question, have you failed at dieting, or has dieting failed you?
Boom, the end.
Yeah. And I think that when just inviting that pause, which is really kind of the work that I do of getting people out of the diet cycle. The diet cycle is the hamster wheel.
Yes.
If we can press pause on the wheel and examine what prompts you, what triggers you to believe that you need to lose weight, or to that keeps you in pursuit of that number or size, we can really explore this compassionate way of nourishing your body without dieting. That's a path that I think everyone can access, but you have to press pause.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. And that really, I don't know how I knew, but that was what 2022 was about. It was like, this is not working, but I don't. And there was that urgency of like, what am I going to try next? There's got to be something that will work. And then I'm like, hang on, maybe we need to question what you're trying to, achieve as the end point. Maybe that's where the problem is, which is exactly what you're saying. So, thank you. Thank you for the work that you do in the world. And I'm so glad that your experience of, going through the, food is medicine, food is the be all and end all, and then your menopause symptoms and then softening into the intuitive eating has led you to do this work, because yes, amazing. Can you tell everyone where to find you online, most importantly, and also about your midlife feast, please?
Yes. So the best place to find me online is on Instagram, which is at menopause.nutritionist. There's a link in my bio, which links to all the things. Couple of different ways that people can work with me. For anyone listening in Australia, I actually have so many people that I work with there, because where I'm living in Europe right now, the time actually works.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I do have some one-on-one options, and but I also have a community, which is my Midlife Feast community.
Yes.
This is a membership community for exactly us, essentially, women who are exploring this new relationship with food, but also in menopause and want to learn about what's happening and what's to come, and also connect with others who are in the same age and stage. And it's, it's one of my favorite places to hang out, just because I love connecting with people, and it's a really lovely, lovely space.
Oh, so good. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Expertise and wisdom. And yes, I'm going to have to make about 50 different quote images. I've been scribbling and I'm like, no, that's even better. No, that's even better. Doesn't matter. Thank you so much. See you later.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Good night.
Hello, beautiful. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode, and I trust you received some golden nuggets or key takeaways that will help you to create the space and grace to more gently traverse this perimenopausal transition. I know that sometimes these midlife years feel rather messy, but they do have a magical purpose. We are literally smack bang in the middle of a powerful, potent, sometimes painful portal, the rite of passage of perimenopause. And the way I see that is that it's a bridge between our younger, energetic, dating and mating, climbing the ladder, easily able to juggle all the balls self, and our older, wiser, take no bullshit, deeply anchored in our own internal guidance, free of obligation, duty, roles and responsibilities that no longer fit us, and way more powerful wise woman within. And what's the wise woman doing right now? She's calling you to gently, patiently cradle yourself whilst you burn down what no longer serves, whilst you honor your needs, while you connect and repattern old limiting things, and you surrender to this deep midlife metamorphosis. I have created something really special for us to get together online every month, completely free. They're called the Soothe Sessions, and it's a chance to join me to create the space and the grace to calm your mind, soothe your nervous system, and learn to feel really safe in your body so that you can let the wise woman have her way with you. We'll join online every month for 90 minutes, And the sessions will include a little bit of a fundamental background info about this powerful portal of perimenopause. I'll share with you a simple and effective tool from my toolbox to offer you some self-soothing when this tricky transition starts to get you down. And my toolbox includes everything from sleep science to energetic medicine, bodywork, shiatsu, traditional Chinese medicine, oriental psychology, yoga, meditation, breathwork, all sorts of weird and wonderful East meets West goodness. I'll also offer you a high quality question for your self-awareness and growth. And then perhaps most delicious of all, a super relaxing 20-minute restorative yoga or yoga nidra to allow you the space and grace to integrate what you've learnt. You will find everything about the Soothe sessions underneath the show notes in all the podcast platforms and also on my website at kyliepatchett.com.au under free monthly masterclass. I hope you will take the opportunity to join me. I'd love to meet more of you live, and I will be swapping the time zones around from evening to early morning Australian time so that everyone around the world, including the 29 countries that Zoom on in across Australia and the Asia Pacific region and Europe and the Americas, and even Iceland, which I've just seen today, which is pretty cool. So yeah, the time zones will actually change so that they'll be good for you. And if you register, there will always be a replay. So I hope you'll join me. Here's to you going gently through this midlife metamorphosis, and have a beautiful day. Thanks so much for tuning into another episode, and I trust you're walking away with inspiration, aha, maybe some chiropractic adjustments of the soul where you've realized perhaps some ways that you're getting in your own way, or something that needs to be healed, or something that's calling to you that your heart really, really wants to birth or create or step into in this second cycle of life. And if that's you, I am throwing my arms wide open and inviting you to check out all of the ways that we could potentially partner together at kyliepatchett.com.au. That's my website for the podcast, and also one-on-one and group programs in midlife mentorship, yoga and breath work in specifically designed menopause classes online, and also super excitingly, a list of retreats around Australia that I have been blessed to partner with some pretty darn spectacular humans who also help midlife mavens through this transition point. So if you are looking for some support, some community, some tools, just a safe place to actually reconnect to who you are, what you want, and come home to your own power and magnificence, I would love to welcome you into any one of those containers. So head on over to kyliepatchett.com.au, and I will be back in your ears very, very soon.